And we have a little story to follow along today, so I hope you all enjoy it, right? So this is where our story starts. Did you know on St. Joseph Maracas Hill, there is an unmarked grave? Have you all ever heard about that tale or that legend? Have your parents ever mentioned it? Or you ever heard someone say that somewhere in that cemetery on Maracas Valley, there's an unmarked grave? Did you ever wonder how it came to be? If you ever wondered, well, I'm going to tell you the story of that. And it's going to involve, right? So you're going to pretend that you are in the story and we're going to work our way up. All right, so let's get to it. So I want everyone to take down this question, right? It's your first quadratic simultaneous equation, right? So the topic is quadratic simultaneous or simultaneous quadratic, any way you want to say it. Do not start this question. I have to guide you through this question. Now, today, today's class, it will only make sense if you were here from day one. When we started the simultaneous, we did the quadratics, and of course, expand brackets. So today, you're not going to get everything into baby steps, right? I'm not going to go back to every single thing I did over the 3 weeks. The premise is, or the assumption is, everyone came here fully prepared to put everything together in one question, right? Started. Okay, so most of the time, you will notice that one of the equations only has simple things like x and y. But the other one is a little bit more complex. You see the squares, right? So the first equation, the one without any x and y, is usually called linear. And whenever you see things like square and thing appear, right, you could think of it as a quadratic. So that's why we call, well, the official name for this is called a linear quadratic simultaneous equation. Whenever we have a linear quadratic simultaneous equation, we usually get 4 answers. We don't usually get 2 answers. We usually get 2 answers for x, and we get 2 answers for y. So we're going to expect that at the end of the question, we're supposed to get 4 answers, 2 for x and 2 for y in 99% of the cases. It have very rare cases where you get no answers at all, meaning that the question is not possible to work out. Or sometimes, very rare, you get 1 answer for x and 1 answer for y. So you end up with 2 answers. So anyway, let's get started with it. The first thing you have to do is label both equations. Equation 1 and equation 2. So everyone label it for me. Equation 1 and equation 2. And what you need to do is always choose the simpler equation. Which one looks simpler? Equation 1 or equation 2? Let me know on the chat. Equation 1, right? So I'll put a little smiley face by him to mean that he's the easier equation. Never choose the more complex equation. Huh? That would just make life a living hell. Always choose the easier looking one. So in the exam, you want to let the examiner know, hey, you chose the easier equation, which is equation 1. So write a little statement like this. Choose equation 1. Now, equation 1 will not always be the simpler equation, right? If equation 2 was the easier looking equation, you say choose equation 2. So because we are choosing equation 1, I want everyone to write back equation 1. Don't change a single thing. Write it back exactly as how it is. So remember, for a question, right? For a question, you want to have proper statements, right? Because you get marks for statements. When you choose equation 1, you have a choice. You're either going to make x the subject or y the subject. The truth is, it doesn't matter if you make x the subject or you make y the subject. Any one will give you the same answer. But you want to make life easier for yourself. Would it be easier to make x the subject or y the subject? You always try to make life easier for yourself. So let me know on the chat. I think y would be easier to make the subject, right? Let me explain why I would choose y. If I were to make x the subject, let me just do some work in here. If I were to make x the subject, like I wanted x alone on one side and everyone else on the other side, I would have to throw across the positive y first. And when I throw across the positive y, I will get what? Minus y. So then I would end up with 2x is equal to 5 minus y. Now, minus y is the same thing as minus 1y. Right? No examiner is going to put the 1 in front there for you. You have to put it in. And then to make x the subject, I would throw across the 2. Now, the 2 is a multiply. So by now, when you throw across a multiply, you're going to get a divide. So you have two things to divide on that side. So 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. And well, 1 divided by 2 is a half or 0.5. I just made x the subject. Now you notice it ended up with some decimals when we made x the subject. Because you had a number 2 touching the x. So eventually, in your head, you will know that, hey, when I'm making x the subject, I'm going to eventually have to divide everyone by 2. However, if we decide to make y the subject, let's write back here. 2x plus y is equal to 5. To make y the subject, I would just have to throw across positive 2y to get what? Minus 2y. Because the number touching y is 1. But as soon as I throw across the positive 2x and I get minus 2x, y is already the subject. Doesn't this look a little bit easier to deal with because it has no decimals in it? So the smarter choice here is to make y the subject, not x. Okay? So I just wanted to point that out in case it wasn't too obvious. So we have to show or tell the examiner who we plan to make the subject of the formula. So write it. Make y the subject. So if I make y the subject, well, this one is easy to do in my head. So I know I could say throw across positive 2y, you're going to get, positive 2x to get minus 2x. You see, once you make a letter the subject, what do we name this equation? Well, what do you all remember from normal, boring simultaneous equation? When you choose an equation from the beginning and make somebody the subject, what do we name that equation? Equation number what? Obviously, 3, because we have 1 and 2 already. You're going to make 3. Everyone take it down there. Right? So you see, it's the question, even though it has squares and whatnot, it has a quadratic part. It starts off like a regular, boring, simultaneous equation where we're doing the substitution method. And remember, the substitution method is the most powerful method. Where are we going to substitute equation 3 into? Are we going to put equation 3 into equation 1? Or are we going to put it into equation 2? What do you all remember from one of the first days of doing simultaneous equation? Right. When you make equation 3, you always substitute it into the equation we did not use as yet, which will always be the more complicated looking one. So we're going to put equation 3 into equation 2. But you want to tell the examiner exactly what you are doing. So you put a little statement for him. You're going to say, you're going to substitute, or you can use put, but substitute is the better word. Substitute equation 3 into equation 2. So you write a little statement so the examiner knows exactly what you are thinking. So everyone take down that green statement. Right? And remember what this means. Wherever, when you go to equation 2, wherever you see the letter y, wherever you see it, you could throw away y and in brackets, replace it with 5 minus 2x, right? So let's do that now. Let me get a different color here, right? So don't take down what I'm taking down here yet, right? I have 2x squared plus y squared is equal to 11. So I'm going to equation 2. This here is equation 2. And when I go to equation 2, wherever I see the letter y, I have to throw it away and replace it with what? 5 minus 2x. Now, I'm going to do something wrong on purpose. Right? I want you all to tell me what I did wrong on purpose. So I'm supposed to replace the y with what? 5 minus 2x. That's this y here. And I have to make sure and put back the square. What did I do wrong there? I did something slightly wrong there. Let me know what wrong thing I did. The brackets, great. Remember, this entire y, when you replace something in maths, you're supposed to put it in brackets. So the correct way of writing this, and make no mistake, the examiner will deduct marks if you don't put those brackets. Right. So what you need to do is simplify this now for me. Now I'm going to do something wrong on purpose again. Now, usually for these questions, you need a lot of space, right? So I'm going to divide the screen here, and I'm going to continue my working up here, right? I'm use a light color. So I'm going to go up here and continue. You all have a book, so you all can keep going downwards. I don't. I'm going to do something wrong on purpose. I want you all to tell me what I'm doing wrong. Let me change the color. So I have 2x squared. And I have 5 minus 2x in brackets squared. So that means everybody inside here obviously gets squared. So 5 squared is 25. And minus 2x squared is minus 4x squared. And then I put equal to 11. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? This is straight out of last week's class. Nairan, correct. Sarah, check it back. Some people are saying that I have the 5 correct. So 5 squared is 25, but minus 2x squared. When you square anything in the world, you're supposed to get a positive. But that's not the mistake. That's not the mistake at all. A lot of y'all are forgetting what I taught last week. Right. Remember, when they give you a bracket square, like you have 2 items and they ask you to square it, it's not okay to visit everybody and just square it. Right? You have to use the both thing, correct? Some of you all remember, right? So 5 minus 2x squared is really what? 2 brackets next to each other like this, right? 5 minus 2x multiplied by another 5 minus 2x. If you look back in your notes last week, so you have to take your time now. And this is the boat thing, and you have the 2 passengers. I want everyone to take their time and expand out properly and simplify the red brackets for me. So take a minute for that. Now, I'm not going to be doing the expansion of brackets in baby steps, right? Well, for today's class, right? Because we spent an entire almost 2 hours last week rectifying that. So when you expand these brackets, you might get the 4 values in a different order, but you're supposed to get 25 minus 10x minus another 10x plus 4x squared. right? So I'll color coding it for you guys there, right? It's positive 4x squared. So if you didn't get that, try it back. It doesn't matter if like I said, the 25, the minus 10, everything in red could be in a different order once the values are the same and the signs are the same. Now, what we need to do, we need to simplify this as much as possible. You'll notice it's starting to look like a quadratic equation, like purely like a quadratic equation. It have a x squared, it have things with x squareds in it, things with regular boring x's in it, and then what? Things without x's. So since it's a quadratic, I'm going to throw everybody on the same side. So this 11, here's a problem. Throw across positive 11, and you're going to get what? Minus 11. So let me write back that there. You have 2x squared. Write the red in red. Plus 25 minus 10x plus 4x squared. And then you have positive 11. You throw him across. I want everyone to simplify this for me. Add up all the x squareds, add up all the regular boring x's, and then everything without x. How much of you all came this Saturday maths class to brush up on your algebra, like how to simplify expressions like this? Remember the Saturday classes like the Form 2, Form 3 class, where we teach back how to do simple things like, group similar items together and even expand out brackets. Like we did more questions on it, right? So congrats to those who actually came to the Saturday class to try to brush up on the basics, right? And this Saturday, we have another maths class, right? At 9 a.m. Feel free to come to that class. Now, it's easy to lose track of what we are trying to accomplish in this question because it's so long. But remember, in these types of questions, we're supposed to get 4 answers, 2 for x and 2 for y. So 4 answers in all. So let's add up all the x squareds. 2x squared plus 4x squared is what? 6x squared. You have minus 10x minus another 10x is minus 20x. And then 25 minus 11, oh, I don't know, 14. I hope I can do that correct. You all notice something? You have a perfect quadratic equation. Tell me something. If we were to solve this quadratic and we get 2 answers, would the 2 answers be x or y, or what, or would one be x and one be y? Because remember, when you solve a quadratic, you just normally get 2 answers. The question is, are we getting 2 x answers right now, or 2 y answers, or a mixture of both? Right. So I just reading the answers on the chat there. If your quadratic only has x's in it, and a quadratic, you cannot solve a quadratic if it have a mixture of letters. Like if you're given a quadratic, it's either all the letters are x or all the letters are y. It's not going to have a mixture of x and y. If your quadratic has x's in it, when you solve this quadratic that's in front of you, your 2 answers will be x answers. So when you solve this quadratic, you will get 2 x answers. So I want everyone to quickly solve this quadratic. I'm going to circle the a value. I'm going to circle what? The b value, and you have the c value. And you notice your quadratic is equal to 0. So it's perfectly okay to pull out a, b, and c. Everyone, quickly use this formula. Get your 2 answers. And I'm not going to do the formula in baby steps today because we passed this point already in class. Everyone should be able to solve a quadratic in under a minute. Go and send your answers on the chat. Values here, quick. Right. Erase the letters, and I'm going to substitute in back the values. B is minus 20. So, well, when I put B here, remember the formula comes with a minus sign. So you're going to end up with positive 20. You put minus 20 here. A is 6, C is 14, and A is 6. So you have positive 20 here, plus or minus. I mean, you can put the positive in front of the 20, but if you don't put anything, it's what? Understood. 2 by 6 is 12. What value did you get underneath the square root sign before you square rooted it? Right, so that's now 40 minus, oh, that's now 400. 1 second, guys, my calculator is sticking. Did you all get 64 underneath here? Underneath the square root sign, right? You're supposed to get 64, right? And when you square root 64, you're going to get 8. Right. So we're supposed to get 2 answers now, right? We're supposed to get 2 answers. So you have 20 plus 8. Make sure the top is in brackets and divided by 12. This will give me my first answer. And then you say 20 minus 8 in brackets and divided by 12. Make sure you have the brackets there. Otherwise, your calculator will give you the wrong answer in a lot of the cases. Right? I know I mentioned that. I've been saying that for 2 weeks straight. So 20 plus 8 in brackets divided by 12. Anybody got for the first answer? 2.33 or 2 1/3? I'm going to 2 decimal places. I hate fractions. If I just prefer decimals because it's easier to type in decimals on a calculator, right? 20 minus 8 divided by 12 is 1. Now remember, these 2 answers we just got are X answers. So both of them are X. Now in the exam, call one X1 and the other one X2. So you can differentiate between the 2 answers. Or it doesn't matter if you get the 1 value first or the 2.33 first. Once you get your 2 answers, you call any one answer X1 and call the one just what? X2. The order doesn't matter. Make sure you get these 2 answers. And do you think we are finished with the question? Think back to how much answers we're supposed to get in total, right? The answer is no to that question. Most of the times when we solve a quadratic, we're supposed to get 4 answers. Now, here's the thing. If you get 2 answers for X, you will get 2 answers for Y. That's how maths works. If you get 3 answers for X, you're supposed to get 3 answers for Y. In other words, X and Y are kind of symmetrical. If you get 1 answer for X, then you're supposed to get 1 answer for Y. So now that we have our 2 answers for X, which equation do you think we should run to? In substitution method, which equation do we always run back to at the end of the day? 1, 2, or 3? Which equation do we run back to? Right, see some of you are getting it wrong. The best equation. No, the truth is you can run back to any equation. But if you want to make life easy for yourself, always run back to equation 3. I'm going to put a little sunshine around equation 3 there, right? Equation 3 will always make life easier for you. You know why? Because in equation 3, remember, we're trying to solve for Y. Equation 3 has who already? The subject. If you look at equation 3, it lines up so nice for you already. Y is already the subject. So guess what you have to do? Take your first answer for X and substitute it here, work it out, and you will get your first answer for Y. Then substitute in your second answer for X. Remember, when you substituted it in, put it in brackets, and you will get your second answer for Y. Okay? So I'll give you all a couple minutes to finish up the question, and then I will jump in and obviously do it slowly for you guys. Okay? Good luck. So I'm going to use this guy first, right? X1 is 2.33. So I'll write him back, but I can write it side by side. Y is equal to 5 minus 2x, and I'll do this one here. Y is equal to 5 minus 2x. We're supposed to replace the x with the first value I got, which is 2.33. You notice I replaced this x in brackets. And I'm supposed to do the same thing with the other value, with the 1. So I'll replace this x with 1 in brackets. So let's see what we get for the first answer. You can type in this straight on your calculator. You can say 5 minus 2 multiply, open brackets, 2.33, close brackets. You can type it in just like that in your calculator. And your calculator should not give you any problems. And I'm getting 0.34. And for the next one, I'm getting 3. Could you all agree with those answers? Remember, if you use the fraction 2 and 1/3 rather than 2.33, you're going to get a slightly different answer to me, right? It might be off by 0.01 or something like that. Now, here's the thing. You cannot leave your answers like the answers for x down here and the answers for y down here. You have to put it in coordinates form. Remember, you have to pretend you're on graph paper. Remember, on graph paper, the x value does come first and the y value does come after. So you have to put it like this. You see when x is 2.33, what is the corresponding value to that? The answer was 0.34. And when x was 1, the corresponding value for y is 3. You have to make sure you get the correspondence correct. When x is this, y is that. When x is this, y is 3. Now you are finished. Only when you write it in brackets like this. You think you all could do a question like this in under 5 minutes in the exam? Let's go. Right, so our story starts up into this forest here. Creepy forest. Note the year is 90. And you somehow appear in this forest, this spooky forest, right? And you hear a scream in the forest. You hear someone being attacked by something. Your name is Sanchez, for whatever reason. Mondego, you are a murderer on the run from Spain. You have come to Trinidad with the hopes of starting a new life. You venture into the forest to hide from the local law. Suddenly, you hear a terrible scream of a man on the verge of meeting his God. But then this lady appears in this spooky forest. You all find something wrong there? Anything suspicious about that? Spooky forest, you hear a man screaming, and then a lady, well-dressed with an umbrella, shows up. And this is her story. She thanks you for saving her. All right. Suspicious behavior here. All right. All right. So you all want to try this question now? Well, let me start you. You're given 2 equations again, but you notice how the examiner wrote it, which is not a problem. He wrote it like this. Equation, this here is equation 1, and this here is what? Equation 2. Right? Nothing wrong with writing it like that in the exam. You can write it horizontal. So which equation will we be choosing first? Equation 1 or equation 2? Equation 1. Correct. Right? So you all know, tell the examiner what you're going to do. So we're going to choose equation 1. So you write back equation 1 for the examiner because that's the simpler of the 2 equations. Always choose the easier looking equation. And when you choose equation 1, you have a choice. It's either you make x the subject or y the subject. Who will be easier to make the subject, or which one is the better choice to make the subject today? Both of them have a number in front of them. The X has a 2 and the Y has a 3. Okay, let me explain something, right? And this is some good advice. Remember, it doesn't matter which one you make the subject, X or Y, both of them will give you the same answer at the end of the day. But you want to choose the easier way to get it. Let's say I do the wrong thing. I decide to make Y the subject, just like the question before, right? Remember the last question we made Y the subject. So common sense, not common sense. Your brain will tell you, all right, in the last question I made Y the subject. Let me make back Y the subject. Look at this, If we decide to make Y the subject, and the first person I have to throw across is the positive 2x. So throw across the positive 2x, you get minus 2x. Then we have to throw across the 3. So both people get divided by 3. In maths, whenever you divide by 3, you just ever get a nice number or a nice decimal? In most cases, no, right? You're going to end up, look at this, 5 divided by 3 is 2.66666666. You're going to have to round off that to 2.66 and work with that crazy decimal for the entire question. And 2 divided by 3 is 0.666666. You're going to have to work with 0.66 for the entire question. You really, really, really want to go through that? So I'm going to give you a list of evil numbers. Which one thing? List of evil numbers, right? These are values you try to avoid dividing by. And it's not odd numbers. It's not about avoiding all odd numbers. But the evil numbers are usually 3, 6, 7, and 9. Try to avoid dividing by those values. Because in 99% of the cases, I mean, I have exceptions to the rule. You see, when you divide by 3, 6, 7, or 9, boy, you just end up with a crazy decimal, a reoccurring decimal, and you don't want to divide by that. So everyone take down this list of evil numbers now. Or you can just make a mental note. 3, 6, 7, and 9, right? So it would make more sense to make who the subject? X. Because if you decide to make X the subject, you will end up dividing by 2. When you divide by 2, even if you get a decimal, it's a nice decimal, like 0.5 or 3.5. You can deal with that. You don't want no reoccurring crazy decimal to deal with, right? Right. So take down the evil numbers and everyone quickly make X the subject for me. So, and of course, you have to put down that instruction for the examiner. You're going to let him know, hey, choose equation 1 and we make X the subject. Correct? So in this one here, you're supposed to throw across positive 3y, you'll get what? Minus 3y, right? So 2x is equal to 5 minus 3y. And then this 2 is a multiply. You know, you throw him across, you get what? A divide. So when you simplify that, you're going to get 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 minus 1.5y. How much of you all got this for equation 3? You have everything correct. Well, this is simple stuff. I don't expect anybody to get this one wrong, right? We have right over here. So I have 2y plus the letter x here, right? I have to what? Throw away that x, and I'll use pink for that. Throw him away and put 2.5 minus 1.5y, close brackets, and then I have the letter y waiting here. And this whole thing is equal to what? 12. How much of you all have the substitution part there correct? Like the x used to live in the pink brackets, but I threw him away and I replaced him with what equation 3 suggested. Now you have to take, this one actually real easy to expand. everybody in the pink brackets gets multiplied by who is waiting outside. That blue Y is waiting on the outside. So everybody in the pink brackets gets multiplied by that, right? That's what somebody said I made a mistake. Oh, yeah, correct. Yeah, I forgot. Who was I going to somebody tell me? I forgot the squared here, guys. I forgot the square. Thank you. All right. So let's expand out the brackets. So you have 2y squared. 2.5 by y is 2.5y minus 1.5y by y is minus 1.5y squared is equal to what? 12. So all, and I'll run out of space here, so I'll put in a little line here. So all I have to do now, you notice it have a y squared, a y, and then it has things without y. So it's still a quadratic, but instead of x's, it's y's. No, nothing is wrong with that. So throw everybody on the same side, and then you'll get what? 2y squared plus 2.5y minus 1.5y squared minus 12 is equal to 0. Let's simplify this. Let's add up all the y squareds, all the y's, and then everything without a y. Get some blue here. You have 2y squared minus 1.5y squared. 2 minus 1.5 will give you 0.5y squared, or half. This 2.5y has no friends, and the minus 12 has no friends. So this is your quadratic. How much people got that quadratic? You have the y squareds, the y's, and then things without the y's. So you have your A, your B, and your C value. Even if you didn't get it, look for your mistake. Look for your mistake. I know you're seeing a lot of decimals rather than whole numbers, but sometimes it comes like that in the exam. So this is your whoever touching the y squared is A, whoever touching the regular boring y is B, and everybody else is equal to C. And you notice the other side of the equal sign is 0, which is how all solving of quadratics should be arranged. Right, so guys, so throw everyone into the big formula, and when you solve this quadratic, you will be solving for y first, because your quadratic only has the letter y's. So when you use the formula to solve it, you are getting the y values, not the x values like in the previous question. All right. Take it from there, giving you some more time. Let's substitute in some values here. Erase the letters, and we're going to put the values in its place. B is 2.5, so you have 2.5 here. A is 0.5, and C is minus 12, and A is 0.5. Don't let the decimals get to you. So we have minus 2.5 plus or minus 2 multiplied by 0.5 is 1, right? So we got a real nice value underneath. For the top, 2.5, that's our 2.5 squared. When I square 2.5 on your calculator, you're getting 6.25. You have a minus sign here. Let's work out the brackets. 4 by 0.5 by minus 12. 4 multiplied by 0.5 by minus 12 is minus 24. So when you work out the brackets, you're going to get minus 24, but you have a minus sign according to the formula weighted on the outside. So you end up with 6.25 minus minus 24. A minus and a minus is a plus. So you're going to end up with 6.25 plus 24. So I'm not running out of space, but underneath here, we ended up with 30.25. Make sure that I just add the 6.25 to the 24. And then we have the square root that 30.25. So square root that 30.25. And anybody got 5.5? Make sure you reason it out and don't copy down my value. When you get the 30.25 by adding the 6.25 and 24, square root 30.25, and you will see 5.5. Now get your two answers for y. You're going to use the positive and then the what? Minus. Right? So you could say minus 2.5 plus 5.5 in brackets divided by 1, and then do what? Minus 2.5 minus 5.5 divided by 1. And you'll get your two answers for y. We're not solving for x right now. Our quadratic had y. So when we solve and we get our two answers, both will be y. First answer is minus 2.5 plus 5. That's all. Minus 2.5 plus 5.5. 3 is my first answer. And the other one is minus 8. We can all agree with that. 3 and minus 8. And which equation are we going to run back to now to get our x values? Because we got our y values. It's just our x values. Equation 3 is the one that you go to. Oh, sorry. Sorry for erasing all of that. Actually, no, that was on the screen for a long while. So I will just put it back here in case anybody was taking it out. Right. So run back to equation 3 now and make sure you get your corresponding x values. Run back to equation 3. Right. This is our equation 3 here. You can't miss them. Right. So x is equal to 2.5 minus 1.5y. And I write it back twice because I have to use equation 3 twice. Replace the y with 3. That's on my first value. And then we're supposed to replace y with minus 8. Be careful, because two minus signs going to touch here. Right now, you can just use a calculator to type it in straight. Just make sure you put your brackets between the 1.5 and the 3 is a secret multiply. So once you type it in exactly like that on your calculator is going to get it correct, right? For the first one, I'm getting minus 2. I hope I have that correct. And for the next one, well, I'll call this x1. The next one, when x is minus 8, 2.5 minus 1.5 multiplied by 8 minus in brackets. Anybody getting 14.5? Do I have that correct? 14.5, right? Check it back. You can do it in parts first. You can multiply out the brackets first and then add it to the 2.5 anyhow. Now, you can't leave your answers for y down here and your answers for x up here. The examiner is not going to appreciate that. You have to put it in coordinates form. Remember, in coordinates form, the x comes first and you have a corresponding y after. X comes first and a corresponding y after. When x was minus 2, the corresponding y value was 3. Remember, when we substituted in 3, we got the minus 2. So two of them are relatives. So minus 2 and the 3 go together. And when the x was 14.5, the corresponding y value was minus 8. That's how you write it. The final answer is the green answer. How much people got that without my assistance? Like you started from the beginning and you forgot about, you didn't even bother to listen to me and you just worked through to the final answer on your own. All right, so let's continue with the story with a strange lady in the forest. All right, so she takes you back to her village. Remember, it's the year 1890. And she tells everybody in the village that you have saved her and that you are a hero and a brave person. I have a feeling she's setting you up for something. All right. You know, when people start to tell you a whole set of good things for no reason, you know, they're up to no good. All right. So let's see what happens here. So apparently she went missing last night, and the village sent a search party to find her. Now she is no ordinary person. She's a baroness, so she's probably the leader of this village. She holds a very high position in this village. Okay, right? And there she goes again, telling you that you are a brave, brave, brave person. All right. Right, so she tells everyone to open the gate and let our new hero in, which is you, into the village. Right, that's how we're doing it. All right, so let's go into the village and claim our rewards and our, well, we call it parade and whatnot. All right, guys, try this question. Let's see what you can come up with. See if you can remember everything that I told you. I'm going to be moving through this question way faster than the last two. Good luck, and you have a 5 minutes head start. All right, so according to this, we choose the easier of the two equations. So I'm going to choose, well, you saw I chose equation 2 already. Now it's going to be way easier to make y the subject, right? Because there's the number touching y is 1. And whenever 1 is touching, it's real easy to make that the subject. So we're going to let the examiner know we're going to make y the subject. Throw across positive 2x, you're going to get minus 2x. And it's simple as that. This here is equation 3, our most important equation, because we're going to end up running back to equation 3. We are going to put equation 3 into the one we didn't use as yet, which is equation 1. So let's tell the examiner that we're going to put equation, write the word equation or the abbreviation at least, equation 3 into equation 1 this time, because that's the equation we didn't use. And so when we go wherever we see the letter y, we have to replace it with 3 minus 2x in brackets. X squared plus, in brackets, 3 minus 2x squared is equal to 20. I hope you all didn't fall for the trick. You just didn't simply square everybody in the brackets. Squared means you have to what? Multiply it by itself. And if you want, you could throw across the positive 20y on that side one time to get minus 20. Because we're going to have to throw him across anyway. So you could do it now or later on. So take your time now, guys, and expand the two brackets. Simplify the whole equation, and you will get a quadratic. Solve the quadratic. When you all expanded the brackets here, let me see what happened. I'm not running out of space here, but x squared, you're supposed to get 9 minus 6x minus another 6x plus 4x squared, and then you have this minus 20 here. How much people have this? I want to make sure you expand out the brackets properly. All right, put in a little line here. Right, so I'm just going to quickly simplify that so you all can move on, right? It have x squared here and 4x squared. So 1x squared plus another 4x squared is 5x squared. Minus 6x minus 6x is minus 12x. And 9 minus 20 is minus 11. So this is the quadratic you're going to end up with. This is your A, this is your B, and this is your C. Throw it into the quadratic equation, and get your two first answers for x. Take a 2 minutes, I'll jump in again. Substituting the values. B is minus 12. So when you put it here, you end up with positive 12, because remember the formula came with a minus sign. So it's minus B. So you have minus 12 squared here, 5 and minus 11 and 8. So you have positive 12. Well, you don't have to put the positive sign here. You can just say 12 plus or minus 2 by 5 is 10. Let's work out the underneath the square root sign and then square root it. Minus 12 squared is positive 144 when you square anything in the world. And inside the brackets, 4 by 5 by 11. 4 by 5 by 11, and it's minus 11, so it's minus 220. Two minus signs will touch. And underneath the square root sign, when you work out everything here, anybody get 364? And then we have to square root that. I'm getting 19.08. If you round it off to 2, remember, when you square root it, you're going to get 19.078. If you're going to 2 decimal places, round off the 7. Any value after is 5 or more, so you have to add 1 to the 7, giving you 19.08. You have to round off properly. All right. Let's get our two answers now. 12 plus 19.08 in brackets divided by 2, and 12 minus 19.08 divided by 2. Remember, we're solving for x right now. Huh? The two values for x, x1 and x2. You're going to get 15.54, and then 12 minus 19.08 divided by 2 is minus 3.54. Those are the two values. Oh, sorry, guys. I made a mistake. Nobody, two people told me I'm supposed to divide by 10. 2 by 5 is 10. My mistake. Thank you for telling me. 12 plus 19.08 divided by 10 is 3.11 if you round off properly to 2 decimal places. And 12 minus 19.08 divided by 10 is minus 0.71. Looks about correct now, guys, if you round off properly to 2 decimal places. Get your y values now. Run back to equation 3 and substitute it in. Substitute. Right, let's making some space up there, right? Right, so we run back to equation 3. And equation 3 is what? Y is equal to 3 minus 2x. And of course, I'm going to write it twice because we're going to need to use it twice. Replace x with how much? 3.11 in brackets. And then replace the x with minus 0.71. We're almost done here. It's just to work out each one on our calculator. I'll just call this y1 and I'll call this y2. For the first one, I'm getting minus 3.22. The next one is anybody getting 4.42? Those are my two final answers in green. Confirm it, because I can make mistakes. You all just saw I made a mistake. So if you think I did something wrong, let me know. Yeah. Bye-bye to the rest of for those who can't stay. All right? All right. That's all right. 1 second, I sent another message there. All right. So you enter the town, right? Now, they open the gates and then let you into the town. You walk into the village through the doors when suddenly you hear the bells ring. The bell usually means that someone has died. One of the guards tells you that they have found a body in the forest. Well, obviously, right? Because you heard someone die in the forest, right? You heard the screams at the beginning. And of course, you are the stranger to the village. So naturally, they begin to blame you, right? So you just went from a hero to being a murder suspect. And she tells you, my hero, go peacefully with the guards. I promise I will do everything to clear your name and find the real murderer. I'm not too sure if I can trust this lady. So they tie your hands and carry you to the prison towers past a guillotine. You pray that the Baroness will clear your name. All right, so they're going to keep you in the towers for the night. And if they can't clear your name, they send you to the guillotine. 1 second there, guys. So they lock you in a dirty, dark cell, right? With a skeleton. This is not good news. That means whoever was there in that cell didn't make it out alive. You can't help wonder if the next skeleton will be yours. Soon the place gets cold and you see a spirit rise out of the skeleton and it mutters a poem. Let's hear what. Ugh, there's a creepy looking ghost there. All right, let's hear what this ghost has to say. I'm sure it's nothing good.
She reeks of evil and has no love for people. She may look kind and gentle, but she be the daughter of the devil. She said she would clear my name. Instead, she told the village I was to blame.
Yeah, sorry about that voice. It's the only voiceover I could find for the animation. Who do you think that this ghost is speaking of? Right? According to the poem there, right? That's the sound the ghost makes, by the way. I have a good feeling she's talking about. Well, we shall see just now. All right. So around midnight, you're still in your cells, right? You awake to see the guards standing still as if paralyzed by a spell. Soon you see the Baroness approach. But that's supposed to be she. She looks at you and her charming voice soon transforms into a deep, growling, and evil voice as she transforms into, somebody guessed it at the beginning, into the larger bless. So she was the larger bless from Trinidad folklore and some folklores up the islands as well. This is not going to be good. All right. So she walks up and transforms. So that's her true form. So apparently for years, she has been feasting on the people in the village. And of course, they are clueless of what is going on. And of course, remember that grave, that unmarked grave that was in the cemetery at the beginning in St. Joseph? Y'all want to take a guess who grave it was? Anybody wants to take a guess? Who lies in the unmarked grave in the cemetery? Nope, it's not her. Take a better guess. Take a better guess. Nope, guys. Unfortunately, It's your grave. Right? Unfortunately, you do not make it out of this story alive, and the unmarked grave is yours. And the next morning, the Baroness makes the guards bury your body in an unmarked grave in the famous St. Joseph Cemetery. And guys, now you know the secret of the grave. All right, guys, so I hope you all enjoyed the story, right? Clearly not my best story, but story nevertheless. I will not be winning any Oscar awards this year. All right. So for people in St. Joseph, good luck sleeping tonight. And to the entire AdMaths class, have a very good morning and hope to see you all later this week for other subjects. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one. And for those on YouTube, thank you for participating. Right? Hope you all enjoy the story as well. Bye. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome.